chintayet. Translation. Gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Text 26. Yato yato nischalati manaschanchalamastiram tatastato niyamyaitad atmaniva vashamnayet. Translation. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Text 27. Prashanta manasam hena yoginam sukhamutamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutam akalmashat. Translation. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest happiness. By virtue of his identity with Brahman, he is liberated, his mind is peaceful, his passions are quieted, and he is free from sin. Text 28. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmasha sukhina brahma sangsparsham atmantam sukhamashnate. Translation. Steady in the self, being free from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the supreme consciousness. Text 29. Sarvabhuta stamatmana sarvabhuta nichatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. Translation. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. Text 30. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na prayasnami samjami prayashati. Translation. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Text 31. Sarva bhutam stitam yoma pajati vikvat vishnutam sarvata svatamanupi sayogi mai vartate. Translation. The yogi who knows that I and the super soul within creatures are one, worships me and remains always in me in all circumstances. Text 32. Atma praimena sarvatra samam pashyati yo arjuna sokam yati bhaktukam sayogi paramo mataya. Translation. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true quality of all beings, both in their happiness and distress, O Arjuna. Text 33. Arjuna uvacha yoyam yogastoya prokta samina madhusudana etasyaham pashyami chanchalatva. Translation. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Text 34. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayuriva sudushkritam sudushkaram. Translation. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it seems to me more difficult than controlling the wind. Okay, back to text 25. Translation again. Gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone, and should think of nothing else. So, well, yeah. Purport. By proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called pratyahara. The mind, being controlled by conviction, meditation, and sensation of the senses, should be situated in trance or samadhi. At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material conception of life. In other words, although one is involved with matter as long as the material body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasures of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness. So, we are the self, and Krishna is also the self. And just like we fix our eyes on the sun and we can see ourselves and the sun, so we have to see the self within ourself in order to be truly fixed in trance and meditation. When we're in darkness, we can't really see ourselves. That's one example that Prabhupada gives, is that when you're in a dark room, you can't see yourself in a mirror. You can't see yourself in a reflection of water or anything like that. So when you're in a dark place, like let's say you're in a dark room or you're outside in nighttime, you can't see anything. There's a new moon out. You can't really see anything. So to see the self means to see the Supreme Self. And the Supreme Self is the chief living being of all living beings. So if we can fix up our mind on Krishna, then we can fix up our mind on everything. Prabhupada gives the example of feeding the stomach. And when we feed the stomach, we feed all the limbs of the body. So we can't expect to give the finger some food and expect the body to be nourished, because we understand that the finger doesn't have the power to distribute the nutritional food stuff to the entire body. So in that way, we have to feed the stomach, which is to focus on the Supreme Self or Krishna. And just like that, we also water the root of the tree. The example is given that we water the root of the tree to actually help the world. We have to actually fix ourselves in Krishna consciousness, and in this way become liberated and help everyone who is in distress. So if we take care of Krishna, then we take care of everything. This is something else that Prabhupada was saying. He said that if we take care of Krishna, then we take care of everything. And we can see that when we're taking care of, when we're attentively chanting our rounds, and when we're doing our services to the best of our abilities, then our preaching becomes so much more effective, because when we're doing all our services very nicely and we're trying our best to, when we're simply just trying our best, then Krishna sees that and he awards us with some glory. So let's say we're out on books, or whether we're giving class, and if we're able to do our services very nicely, then Krishna will award us with some glory in order to give us inspiration. And and as as we keep going, the more inspiration we get, the more we want to serve Krishna. And the more we want to serve Krishna, the more Krishna wants to reciprocate with us. And in like this, it's a revolving, it's a never-ending cycle of always wanting to one-up one another, always wanting to do better service to one another, because Krishna serves his devotees. Krishna was the charioteer of Arjuna. He was, what else did he do? Does anybody remember what else Krishna did to serve his devotees? Does anybody? Yeah. Yeah. So he washed Sudama's feet, his best friend, right? His Brahmana friend, his best friend from Vrindavan, right? Maybe. I don't know. Oh, okay. So he washed his best friend. So we can see that since he washed his best friend's feet, he was able to he serves his devotees just like that. So this is how we get the mercy, is by serving and by being engaged 24/7 in hearing and chanting. And Krishna will not hesitate to serve us and help us in anything we need. So yeah, Prabhupada was also saying that that in order, because a Krishna conscious person is so happy in himself, he thinks to himself, he says, well, this is such a nice process, I'm so happy, everyone else is happy around me, and I'm making my life better, I'm making everyone else's life better. So why not spread it to more people, more around the world, more people around the world, more people around my community? Why not spread it so that more people can feel this way? A lot of people would take this up if they just knew that it was there for them. So this is why preaching is so important, because preaching, it gives the conditioned soul a chance to be better than he was before. And we can see that in everywhere around in Krishna consciousness. Everyone who takes it up, whether you're a brahmachari or grihasta, or whether you're vanaprastha or sannyasi, everyone who takes it up has a better quality of life. I remember when this is a personal story, when I was working and when I was down and out, I didn't know anything about Krishna consciousness. I didn't even know anything about spiritual life in general, but I was suffering so much. And I was just thinking, like, if there was somebody who could help me with my problems and who could give me answers, then I would be happy. And that's what our preachers do. Granted, they might not have all the answers because Prabhupada has all the answers, but we have, if you're a effective enough preacher, then you can help someone at least take Prabhupada's books. You don't have to change their life in 1 second while you're distributing books or while you're giving a good class or giving a good lecture like Radhanath Swami or Giriraj Swami, or even other sannyasis in the movement like Bhadri Narayan Swami. These are just some sannyasis that I know, but you don't have to change their life in 1 second. But if you give them a little bit of Prabhupada's mercy, then you can actually see, then they can see a difference in their life, beginning from that moment where you give it to them. So this is why preaching is so important, because it's the essence of our movement. Our movement is a preaching movement, and when we're preaching, that's when we're doing our highest good. Just like Christianity wasn't just a prayer movement, it was a preaching movement, and we can see how successful that was. So imagine how successful this will be, because we have the pure teachings given to us from 5,000 years ago. And the acharyas have blessed us with so much mercy. And that's what that's another thing that Prabhupada was saying, is that the yogi who sits in meditation in the forest in solitude, he only worries about himself and how I can attain liberation, how I can attain salvation, how I can better my life. But the devotee, he thinks that, how can I make someone else's life better? And that's why we say this prayer in the morning, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And that kripa, in that word kripa in the pranam, it means mercy. And Sindhu means an ocean. And in that pranam, it's saying that the Vaishnava is an ocean of mercy, an ocean of mercy. He has so much mercy, and he's willing to freely give it out. If someone would just go up to him and ask him, or if even no one has to ask him, he'll just go up to them and he'll give them the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And this is why the devotee is so exalted, and this is why Krishna loves the devotee so much that can preach the movement, because Krishna wants as many people to come back to him as possible. And so when we're able to bring more people to the Krishna consciousness movement, we can bring more people to Krishna, more people to engage in Krishna's service, more people to actually become happier. And we can also answer their questions, and we can also, serve them prasadam and these things. That's also preaching, prasadam distribution, and the Sunday feast is a big preaching event. So this is why the preacher is so very dear to Krishna, because Krishna sees that the preacher is trying his best to try to bring as many people as he can to Krishna consciousness. And the preacher, he goes through so many troubles. It could be 80 degrees in the summer, 100 degrees in the summer, and 0 degrees in the winter. But still, the preacher goes out and he does his duty. And so this is why Krishna really takes notice of the preacher. So anyway, I don't want to belabor the point, but Jesus Christ was another example of this. He wasn't just a yogi. He actually went back to he went to India. I don't know where he went, but he studied a whole bunch of traditions, and then he took those traditions and he went back to the Middle East and he started spreading those messages. And the king of the Middle East, or I don't know the whole story because I haven't read really the Bible, if I can understand it. But so the king told him, don't do this, don't spread these teachings. But still, Jesus Christ had such compassion in his heart for all the Jiva Atmas that he was willing to suffer crucifixion for the deliverance of the Jiva Atma souls. So this is why Krishna sees how much pain we have to go through in order to preach this Krishna consciousness movement, how much suffering, how much inconvenience it is to preach to the people of Kali Yuga that this is what you need to do. This is what you need. This is the ultimate dharma of life, is to surrender to God and to serve him. But people don't want to hear that. And yeah, so it's the highest endeavor. I mean, the endeavor to preach Krishna consciousness is the highest service to the Lord. Ramanuja Acharya was a good example of this. He gave, I don't know what mantra it was. I think it was the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Can anybody correct me on that? Prabhupada wasn't really, it was the Hare Krishna mantra. Anyway, Ramanuja Acharya, he gave the mantra and he made it public so that everyone could take full advantage of this mantra, and so that they could see the benefit of Krishna consciousness and what it could do for their lives. And Ramanuja Acharya did all this to help the conditioned souls get away from Maya. But then again, Prabhupada was saying this yogi named Maharshi, I don't know what his first name is. He was giving people this private mantra, and he was charging people $35 for it, which is crazy. You know, $35 for a mantra, that's ridiculous. But people want to they want to pay $35 for this. They want a private mantra. And that's just the condition of this age of Kali, is that people want to be cheated. They want the Akaitava Dharma. They want people to give them the easy way out rather than paying the actual fee to get what truly is, what the true essence of life is. People don't want to be told you need to stop illicit sex, you need to stop intoxication, you need to stop gambling, and you need to stop meat eating. People don't want to hear that. So instead they go to a person who says, okay, you can do all that stuff, just give me some money, and then you can do whatever you want. And they rather prefer this method of spirituality. So we can see that this age of Kali is really fallen. Yeah, the Kali Yuga is so abominable that if you speak truth, people will beat you. That's what Prabhupada was saying. People will beat you. But if you say something that if you lie to people, then people will like you. So we can see this with so many things. This is a little, but I just remember in my own life, I was this is a good example, is that I remember I was on YouTube one time and I was just searching through, and I was like looking for something. I had been trying to become better in social situations, and I was trying to learn how to speak to people, the art of social mastery kind of thing. I don't know, it was weird. But I came upon this guy who had the most interesting, it was the most interesting psychological thing I had ever seen in my life. The fact that this guy, he picked apart these different celebrities who were very charismatic. I don't want to talk about the channel because devotees might go to it. So, but he picked apart these celebrities and he found out what it was that made them so attractive as people, so charismatic that people liked them. And he gave you different ways in which you could, practical ways in which you could actually, it was really manipulation, but he made it seem, he was so good at, he was such a good manipulator that he made it seem like it wasn't even that. It was just selling yourself. That's what he made it seem like. You were selling yourself to get more friends, to get more influence, to get these things. And so the most prominent aspect of being more charismatic, at least in the material world, is to lie to other people. Basically you laugh at their jokes, which are not funny. You do all these weird things with your body because body language is key, they say. And you do, I'm trying to remember you laugh at all their jokes, which are not funny, and then you basically anyway. So it's this whole elaborate system. It was 20, 30, 40 videos of the same thing, picking apart these different charismatic personalities and seeing what made them likable to other people, and then giving you a way to practically put that in your own life. So people want you to lie to them, to say that, oh yeah, you're funny, oh yeah, you're smart, oh yeah, you have you know something about this life, you know something. But they don't want to hear what Prabhupada was saying. Prabhupada was saying that, no, you're a rascal. You've fallen from the spiritual world and you're trying to get back. And the only way to get back, and the only way to stop suffering in this material world is if you give up your rascaldom and your foolishness and you actually surrender to Krishna. So people, how do you vote, right? So people don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear that they're not perfect. They want to hear that they have everything figured out. So this is why people want this cheating religion. They want something that gives them an easy way out. That's what got me with the charismatic thing. Was it was an easy way to manipulate people. So that was sorry if it's so heavy, but I just felt inspired to share that. Anyway, so yoga means to understand the self-realizing process. And yeah, so we have to actually, we have to actually understand this process that has been given to us through hard work and determination. There's a story about a man who had a deep determination to climb Mount Everest, and when he went to the foothills of the Himalayas, he said, "I'll take some rest, and then tomorrow I'll get going. I'll go to the Himalayas and I'll start climbing." And the next day he wakes up, he takes a shower, he gets everything ready, and it's storming outside. There's a blizzard, there's windy, it's snowing, and he's so determined that he goes to the front desk and he goes, "All right, I'm leaving now." And the lady at the front desk, she goes, "What are you doing? It's a blizzard outside. You can't go there. It's freezing. You're gonna something's gonna happen." And the guy says, "You don't know this, but my heart and my mind have already made it to the top of Everest. So my body is just," I can't remember what he's, "my body is just going through the motions," I think he said. So basically, yeah, my body is just going through the motions, and he got to the top of Everest. So this is how we should remain determined in realizing the self. So we can go on to text 26. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Purport. The nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady, but a self-realized yogi has to control the senses as well, is called Goswami or Swami, and one who is controlled by the mind is called Godasa, or the servant of the senses. A Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesh, or the supreme owner of the senses, Krishna. Serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. That is the way of bringing the senses under full control. What is more, that is the highest perfection of yoga practice. Okay. So in the lecture that I was listening to, Prabhupada was saying that suppose we're chanting and the mind goes to the cinema house. We have to be very self-controlled, and we have to tell the mind that the mind should be here with the mantra. How many times does that happen to us where we're chanting and then we automatically go to somewhere else? But we have to tell the mind that no, we're chanting right now, so be here. We focus, have one pointed attention on this mantra, because this mantra is going to save our lives. So it requires training, just like anything. I remember I was with Rishu Kumar Prabhu and Krishna Bhagavan Prabhu, and I was giving some prasadam to a homeless man, and Bhadri Narayan Swami, he called me to the car that he was in, and he told me, we had a little discussion, but anyway, he told me, how long have you been in Krishna consciousness? And I told him, about a year, sir. And he said, I've been in this movement for over 50 years. And he told me, you want to know something? I said, what, sir? He said, it gets better every day. It gets better every day. And he said, and I guess he could kind of sense that I had a doubt about it, because, it was before I got initiated, and I was having some trouble finding a higher taste. And so I guess he understood my mind, and he said, it takes time, and at times it's difficult, but it's just like practicing a sport or practicing an instrument. And he said, what happens when it gets tough during a certain sport or when you're playing an instrument? I said, well, you just have to keep going, and eventually it'll get better. And he said, exactly. That's exactly what it's like in Krishna consciousness. We have to, if we just persevere through the difficult times, then we can actually taste the true happiness of Krishna consciousness, and we can see the beauty of life, how the soul, how through the serving spirit, the soul connects with Krishna and becomes truly happy. So that was one point that he gave me. And so we have to do everything. We must always engage in Krishna's service, and we have to do everything for Krishna. Since we have no chance of getting the facilities of, sitting in a solitary place, a sanctified solitary place, and finding kusha grass and staring at the tip of the nose for many years, since we don't have these facilities, we have to always engage in Krishna's service. And that looks different for different people. One person may do it, I don't know, maybe, selling stocks. That's one thing that they might do. Selling stocks. Okay, I'm selling these stocks so that I might not be able to dress the deities, or I might not be able to wash pots, or I might not be able to preach directly to other people, but I can sell these stocks better than anyone, and then I can give these funds to the temple so that they can actually go on with their services of preaching and deity worship and prasadam distribution and book distribution. So this is one thing that Prabhupada always stresses, is that we have to stay in Krishna consciousness. We have to stay engaged in Krishna consciousness. And this means that we have to find fine tune our Krishna consciousness to the point where we're always bettering ourselves. I think of it like this. I was meditating on this point, that maybe it's speculation, but that Krishna consciousness is the ultimate self-improvement plan or ultimate self-improvement workshop, because we're always trying to better ourselves. We're always trying to find different ways, practical ways to, either chant better or understand the philosophy more, or anything really, to be more fixed up in Krishna consciousness. So that's one point. Staying engaged is very important. Very, very important. So, and then Prabhupada also talked about this in the purport. He also said this in the lecture. He was talking about the 6 Goswamis, and how, and he was talking about, he was talking about the meaning of Godas and Goswami. And Godas is basically where you are controlled by the mind. And what happens when you're controlled by the mind, but automatically you're controlled by the senses, because the mind is the master of the senses. So when we're controlled by our mind, then automatically we can know that we're controlled by our senses. So if we feel like we're, I don't know, if we feel like we're going through a tough time, we can look at our day-to-day lives and see, like, okay, are my senses engaged in, doing some service? Are my senses engaged in anything Krishna conscious? Am I reading? Am I chanting my rounds properly? Am I am I doing something in Krishna's service so that I can be more Krishna conscious instead of more sense conscious and mind conscious, less on the mental platform and more on Krishna conscious platform. So yeah, this is one point that Srila Prabhupada was saying. He was also saying that the 6 Goswamis, before they became Goswamis, they were ministers of the state. And he was saying that before they became 6 Goswamis, they were Godasas. So they weren't Goswamis and they were Godas. They were serving their senses. So I thought that was a pretty interesting way to look at the Goswamis, is that they were not like us. They were not we are not like them, is what I mean to say. They are so exalted, but in a way they come from the same background as us, and in the way that they come from this background of serving the senses, just like we did before we came to Krishna consciousness. All we did was serve the senses. All we did was want to party. All we did was want to eat meat. That's something I love doing. I love that. But anyways, so sorry about that. But all we want to do is serve the Krishna. All we want to do is serve the senses, and it's nice to see that the Goswamis, they probably didn't serve their senses as much as we did, but they did to a certain point. But after they became disciples of Lord Chaitanya, it was over. They took up a loincloth, only a loincloth. They slept under a different tree every night, and they slept 2 hours, and maybe not even that. They probably didn't. Sometimes they didn't even sleep at all. And they were always engaged in Krishna's service, always writing something, always preaching something, always just, I don't know if they were distributing prasadam, but they were probably taking prasadam. They definitely took prasadam. Raghunath Das Goswami, he took I don't know what it is. He took the rejected remnants of what the cows didn't eat from Jagannath Puri. So we can see that this is the symptom of someone who is engaged fully in Krishna consciousness, in devotional service, that they're that they're completely oblivious to their bodily demands, their bodily needs, because they are experiencing such a transcendental happiness that they are completely forgetting everything physical. So yeah, I think that's all I'll say for today. Are there any questions or comments from the class? Yes, Rishi Kumar, Prabhu.
Thank you for this really nice class, Prabhuji. It's a really big treat for the devotees to hear. I just wanted to mention with this, the first verse that you were speaking on, it's a good verse for when someone's asking the question of how come, I'm practicing for a year or 2 years or 10 or a day, but I'm not like, I don't feel that I'm super advanced yet, or I'm not flying around like Narada Muni or seeing Krishna's toenails or something. Someone asks, how come I'm not feeling super advanced, although I'm practicing? So this is a good verse to remember. This chapter 6, text 25. Krishna is explaining gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence. It's a gradual process that we become situated, fixed in Krishna's service. So this is a nice one to remember for that. I also like you made the point about I don't know if I can fully remember it now because it was around the beginning of the class. You're talking about preaching to somebody, but then if we just give them a little bit of Prabhupada's mercy, and then that can go a long way. So I've often heard this point, how book distribution is the best form of preaching. And there's a really nice quote that Prabhupada gives in a letter to Brahmananda that was similar to what you're saying, where he said, yes, that is a good proposal. Print many, many books in African language and distribute widely. That is real preaching work. If you sell a book to someone, that is better than your speaking to them. What will your 3 minutes preaching do? But if they read a book, it may turn their life. Go on preaching. That is the highest perfection of activity, and do not worry for anything. Krishna is so much appreciative of this preaching work that he will give you every facility as much as you have ambition. Thank you.
Jai. Thank you. Okay, are there any more comments or questions? Yes, Magadari Prabhu.
May I make a small comment, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
So this point about the preaching being the most important service, or that makes us the most dear. This is I've been thinking a lot how Lord Chaitanya, he asked everybody on his order to become guru and deliver the world.
Right.
So it's like in our Krishna consciousness movement, everything is connected with that instruction, and if we do that consciously, we'll feel exhilarated.
Yeah.
And that's how Prabhupada did everything that he did, and he did a lot. He didn't just, give instructions about preaching directly, but everything we're doing is all for that. to serve the mission of Lord Chaitanya. So I really liked that topic, and we can work on trying to imbue all of our services with that fire to please Lord Chaitanya, to give this mercy somehow or other.
Yeah. Yeah, like what you were saying. I like what you were saying about the exhilaration of preaching. I remember there was one time I was out distributing books with Bhakti Damodar, and I came up to this one guy, and he was in a car with a dog, and I thought he was cool, but I guess I was wrong. I just go up to I just go up to him and I give him a compliment, and he just totally shoots me down. I showed him the book before he started talking all this slander to me, and I remember getting into an argument with him about why Krishna consciousness is the ultimate goal, and why it's not so bad to take up Krishna consciousness, and how it actually helps. And I remember getting a thrill from that. It wasn't exactly comfortable, but it was a thrill for sure. And afterwards, I felt so exhilarated. I felt so just absolutely. It wasn't, I don't know if it was bliss or ecstasy or what, but it was something. And I felt something, and it was great. It was a great feeling. After you get into get into a debate like that, it's really purifying, but it also makes you feel like you actually tried your best to justify the holy name, to justify the Vaishnavas, and it really made me it kind of made my day. Actually, it made me feel so much better than when I started. So yeah, this exhilaration is definitely there. So, okay, Prabhus and Mataji. Thank you for hearing Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada ki. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.